Hello again, back in the Bedwars lobby. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about school, my experiences with school, others' experiences with school that I have witnessed. School has evolved quite a lot even since I've been alive. I was homeschooled by my family, and when I say my family, I mean like custody reasons. I switched back and forth quite a bit, so whoever was present was kind of my teacher. Up until about second grade, my main problem with school was productivity. Another huge problem for me in school was organization. I was also always a chatterbox. I never had any behavior issues at all when it came to school, which I would talk constantly and all the teachers hated me for it. Never because I, fuck the teachers. I was just talkative, extremely social. School, personally, I was always the odd one out. I was very weird. I wasn't necessarily bullied at all in school, which is a huge blessing. I actually made friends off of my weirdness, which is also something I'm very grateful for. Like I said, teachers hated me, but to be honest, it was kind of a mixed bag. I had a different relationship with every teacher I had. Some teachers were mean though. Me and a mean teacher was like vinegar and water, really. And everything with school was kind of a game. Teachers were mean, blah, blah, blah. The cliches about school. Up until middle school happened, then I started declining. Like I mentioned in the previous video, I'm immunocompromised and I did miss a lot of school. Hate you. Go away. Oh my god. I don't know how my Betty is even alive right now. I would miss months of school during flu season. I would just have stacks upon stacks upon stacks of homework. And the school did not make any effort to make that less overwhelming. I mean, I was a kid. What could I have done? I didn't really get a whole lot done, and thus I failed. School started to then become a very overwhelming topic. Even during parent-teacher conferences, the principal literally told my parents the only reason they weren't holding me back is because if they did, I would be more likely to become a high school dropout. They literally carried me like a newborn baby through middle school. That was extremely demeaning. Felt like a joke to my parents. I didn't know why school was that hard. I still survived middle school though, until high school. High school happened and then it was all on me. No longer the teacher's problem, it was no longer the parents' problem, it was now my problem. It's kind of how high school presented it. Not to put my parents on blast, but when they started seeing that I was declining even more, I was painted as stupid. No one could understand why I wasn't able to get anything done. Why even the slightest amount of work, and it could have been the easiest work in the world, would overwhelm me to such a degree where I had zero productivity. This included the teachers, which is so ironic because they're teachers. I don't think they could look me in the eye and tell me I was the first one. And with my immunocompromisation stuff being such a problem, high school attendance is much more important than elementary school. Because I wasn't able to attend even a fraction of what I was supposed to as a high school student, they put me on special ed. And this means I would have monthly meetings with my teachers and school staff and parents called IEPs. What does IEP stand for? Not a fucking clue. So yeah, I was struggling so hard, and the only difference was I now got to struggle in front of everyone, and every month give another stupid excuse as to why. 'Cause at the time, I didn't even know why. And that made me feel like an idiot. So after a certain point, I started to bring up the thought of maybe some learning disability. I had several friends that had ADHD. They would tell me point blank, you have it. They thought it was so overtly clear that I had it. I didn't want to be the type of person to say that I have something that I don't have for the very obvious chance that I don't have it. It's not on paper. I agreed with them. I often thought I did have it, but that wasn't something I was gonna go and say to everyone. This is where the little trigger warning with abuse is gonna come into play. I'm not gonna delve into it too much. My father is an abuser. Him and I had this is such a stupid word to use in this context, but parasocial relationship in terms of father-son. He was extremely narcissistic, and I wasn't confident enough to fight it, which is kind of why the idea of a possible learning disorder wasn't something I was too quick to accept. He would tell me it was something that my mom had put in my head. That was our relationship. Anything and everything wrong with me regarding mental state, he pinned to my mother. So this wasn't something I was super quick to bring up, let alone in front of him. But I finally bit the bullet and I decided to bring it up. The school staff were actually really fond of the idea. It seemed to make sense to them as well, which was really cool. They even offered to set me up with a school-appointed counselor. Although I kind of thought it was a little bit more than what counseling could solve, I was still extremely grateful. And I kind of started to convince myself that this was the turning point where I was going to start getting help, because I had everyone on my side at this point. We got a counselor arranged and I spoke to her a few times. We even arranged an appointment. And when the day came that I had the appointment, I unfortunately got a humble text from her saying that she couldn't follow through with the appointment because my dad hadn't written any form of consent. In fact, he refused. Why, you might ask? No idea. So alas, that was off the table, and I was kind of back to square one. And I had absolutely zero help once again. The only difference was I now was a little more open to the fact that there might be something wrong with me, so to speak. Because the thought that I was just lazy and I couldn't do it for that reason made me hate myself. So if there was anything else I could chalk it down to, I was absolutely open. And now there was, and that was nice. But again, I didn't have a diagnosis. And I'm currently a senior and I'm still very far behind. Probably won't get caught up without getting a GED, which is fine, as long as I can kind of build my bridge around that. Like, at least I have an idea. But at the time, I just struggled my way through it as best as possible. I believe it was late last year I finally was able to see a psychiatrist, got a full psych evaluation, and got what is called an unspecified ADHD diagnosis. What this means is not that I am borderline ADHD. With my test results, I actually scored in the superior range in terms of intelligence, executive functioning, etc., etc. My test results kind of counteracted the ADHD criteria. I had 7 of the 5 symptoms required for an ADHD diagnosis, but there were some other kind of confusing factors that were fighting it. But I got my diagnosis and the psychiatrist was very clear. Even though it's a quote-unquote unspecified ADHD diagnosis, you still have the full right to say you have ADHD. That is not what it's implying. And now I do have a definitive answer as to why school was so hard for me. Let alone the fact that I see absolutely no value in school at all, other than to learn how to learn. I feel like it's more about learning how to absorb information. And some schools are clear with that with their students. Like, none of this information we're teaching you is going to be of value at all. Read, remember, regurgitate. The fact that some schools are candid about that, I feel like is a good thing. That was a big summary of my experience with school. One of the only real reasons why I even survived any of that, I did have plenty of friends that were having extremely similar struggles with school. It seriously validated them for me. I validated it for them. I do believe that the American school system, at least, it's a perfect recipe for stupid children, and it's extremely damaging. Some people are absolutely gold star scholars, and that's fine. It's actually great if you've adapted to the American school system enough that you can succeed through it. I feel like it's almost more common to struggle your way through school just to finally have it done than actually gain much of anything from it. School could be so much more than it is. It's just unfortunate that this is all we got. The same way, like, oh. Glad I got that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna call it there. If you guys have any horror stories from school, I would love to hear about them, just to know that I'm not alone here. If you disagree with some of my views on school, that's perfectly fine. They're very controversial, I do understand. But if you agree and have had the same or similar experiences, I would love to know as well. But I won't keep you guys. Thank you so much for the watch, and I hope to see you in the next one.